Welcome, everybody. Today is November 1st, 2022. This is a Hannah City Village Council meeting. We do have 4 members present. We do have a quorum with myself. We have another trustee that will be here shortly. So at this time, if we go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. So first item up tonight is recognition of public guests. Danny, I see you up there. Are you just listening in?
You're muted, Danny.
He was cooking his supper.
Yeah, sorry, just listening.
Thanks, Dan. Ron?
Listening.
And Miss Megan, you're here for a later item. You're muted.
I muted you, Megan, sorry. I do, hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'll be talking a little bit later. I wanted to be there in person, but I don't want y'all to get sick, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody should have a copy of our October 18th, 2022 meeting minutes in front of you. If you haven't had a chance to scour them, like some trustees do. Motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes.
That was close.
Motion by Pearson.
I suppose you could say that.
Second by Johnson.
I'd have given it to Side, actually.
I think it's because he's got a louder voice.
I don't think he wants a pity second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next up is the treasurer's report.
So the treasurer's report this week looks like the old format because I've been having some issues with Locus 8. The warrant list that was giving me difficulty today, I finally think I got it fixed. I had difficulty with the payroll issues today. I think I finally got those fixed. So we've been going back and forth with Locus 8. Locus has been great with giving me support and trying to get everything fixed for me, but it's been an ordeal.
Just to acknowledge the girls a little bit, they've been running double duty, doing it in 7 and 8 for the full month of October. Hopefully, we're not gonna have to repeat that in November.
We're going to at least for the next week.
Okay.
But they told me that we could drop 7 at any time, so as long as everything matches, and it does so far. I also included a copy of the Blue Cross invoice, as that doesn't show up on the list. It will, going forward, when I start getting everything to work out of 8, it will show up on the warrant list.
What are the home inspections?
That is for Matt Rademacher, who does our inspections for the building inspections. for all the building permits. We pay him monthly, and I forgot last month, so there's 2 on there.
So this for the history, the way we used to do that is we worked through an engineering company and we kept rotating. They'd have somebody in there for a year and a half and then that person would move on to another job and we get somebody else new. And so we found Matt who could do it independently. And so then, but he's a fireman on top of it. And so he was keeping his own books and writing his own invoices and tracking his own time, and it became just a hassle. So we went back and looked at 3 or 4 years of history and just averaged out what the monthly amount was. And so he didn't have to keep records, any of that kind of stuff. So some months we get a deal, some months, you know, he probably gets a deal, but like I said, it was 3 or 4 years even before he was doing it for us.
Then he's on a 1099, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Entertain a motion to approve the treasury report and pay all outstanding bills. By Dak. Second by Chair Valley. Any further discussion? We'll roll call that. Miller? Pearson?
Yes.
Chair Valley?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Brandon will not be joining us tonight. I don't think we had anything engineering wise per se right now, so we'll move down to the attorney's report. Mr. Connor, you're up, sir.
Hi, everybody. Most of my time's been spent working on the tax levy estimate that you'll be voting on tonight and getting a head start on the tax levy ordinance itself, working with Brian on that, and shout out to Brian for his input. That's really all I've got to report unless there's questions.
Bill, just a heads up, we voted on the estimate at the last meeting and we'll vote on the ordinance at the next meeting.
Okay, you know what? Because I printed the wrong agenda 5 minutes ago. There you go. So never mind.
No, you're good. You're good. And Cassandra and I are going to review tomorrow a little bit and just make sure that I don't think we're going to change much, but maybe the mix of where we have things, or at least ask you some questions about that. But other than that, I think we should be good.
Good, yeah, so we have a little back and forth on that, and so it's in draft form right now, but you have to wait 20 days after you do the estimate, so that's why, in case anybody wondering, that's why we are in part aren't doing it tonight. And other than that, I was out of town last week, so this is my first day back, so I'm kind of like, you know, one of those days.
Thank you, Bill. With that, we'll go to the administrative report.
Okay, so I got 2 presentations in your packet that are community and economic development related. We do have our next Community and Economic Development Council meeting is next Tuesday, the 8th. And at that meeting, I'll be sharing this presentation or a modified version of this based upon your feedback. At this point, I'm just trying to kind of build, I guess, what I would call a strategic structure of how we might focus our CEDC efforts and resources. I've gotten input from a lot of people, from Zach, from the CEDC, from the Park District, from Alabama, now from the board members and so forth. But what I'm going to share with you in the broader CEDC presentation is there's nothing set in stone here. You all can help me shape it further. We can, you know, it's just thoughts and ideas and a roll up of input that I've gotten so far. So, yeah.
Bill, I got a question to you real quick. I have an emergency and I need to leave. Do I need to go and appoint a pro tem?
You can do that, or the board can simply appoint a temporary chairman to chair the meeting. We need him to sign anything tonight, Brian?
I've already signed everything.
So, yeah, so you can skip the pro tem thing if you'd like, and we can just have somebody chair the meeting. And
Okay. So at this point, I would take nominations for a temporary chair president? Is that how it should be worded, Bill?
Yes.
I have a motion for trustee Johnson, second by Pearson.
Enthusiastically, second.
I do apologize. My wife is getting sick. She had teeth pulled out, so she's getting sick, so I need to go home and take care of her. So I do apologize. So,
No problem.
Mr. Johnson, I do relieve the chair to you. You have the chair. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, so I'll keep going on this. In the deck, the first one you've got is the presentation for the Community and Economic Development Council. So one of the inputs I got as I met with Farmington, I benchmarked them. They have a TIF district, but they do not have a business development district. And as we talked about the TIF district with them, basically what I learned is, and I think we already knew, is in order to get funding and build up funding in the TIF district, it takes a good bit of time, or you need fairly significant projects. They've had theirs for 8 years, so they've got 8 years of incremental property tax increases. They had the Peterson home project, which was all good TIF money. Kitchen Cook did an expansion. Their water district, which they sold, was in the TIF district. So all of those generated a good bit of money, right off the bat. But 8 years in, their TIF district was generating, I think, close to $600,000 a year. They also have annual programs that they run out of their TIF district. One is they do a business grant for the historic business district. So all the upgrades that you see in all those old 2-story buildings right on the main road there have been out of that. And they spend $75,000 a year on that. And then they also have a residential program that they spend $25,000 a year on. And they do not have a BDD. So that was one of the inputs I got, and they were very helpful and gave us a lot of information. So the next slide, if you look at our current funds in the TIF district, again, we've got a limited balance and we have limited income at this point. We're a year into our process. We don't have any major projects at this time other than the coffee can. So it's going to take some time to build things up. On the business development side, we've got roughly, as of last month, $135,000 in our balance, so savings in the bank. And we're generating roughly around $14,000 a month or $168,000 annually. So the next thing I did, and again, these are just thoughts and ideas, but if we look at our phase 1 TIF priorities, in my mind, we got to build income and reserves. The way we do that is we focus on our main projects. So the main projects we got are the possibility of the Hermans doing their development, the possibility of the Ergonomic Partners expansion, and I stay in contact with both of those groups fairly regularly. I've also done some work to talk with some people, some banking people that I know, to see if they know who developers are in the Peoria area that I might be able to meet with and explain to them the kind of money that we have available and so forth. So I'm starting that process. And then also we have the coffee can. So the quicker we can get them more successful and to 50%, then we're going to get 50% of those dollars as well. So those are the main things we need to focus on the TIF side if we want to get money in, and then just also time. As every year goes by, we're going to see an increase in the property taxes, and those dollars will come in. And then there might be other things we can look at, but right now those are kind of on the TIF side where my focus is. And again, ask questions, push back, give feedback, whatever. On the BDD side, one of the things that the Community and Economic Development Council talked about was new welcome signs on each end of 116. Again, we can talk about whether that makes sense or doesn't make sense. We've been talking about doing something with the Park District, and that's why Megan's here tonight. We can talk more about that, but specifically significant building renovations and then also putting a new park in place. We can do something on the residential program side like Farmington's done. We could do something similar to their commercial grant program, but instead of the historic district, we could focus on just 116, what people drive through all the time. And then we could start our program's fiscal year May 1, 2023. So that would give us time to decide what we want to do, approve what we want to do, communicate what we want to do, and get everything out and rolling, okay? So if you look at the BDD strategy then, so what I've got is we've got $135,000 in reserves. So I went ahead and just decided I'd get some quotes on welcome signs on each end. And again, we don't have to do them if we don't want. I'll show you. I can't do this when I'm recording. Is there a way to, give me a second here. Oh, it won't let me do that, will it? Anyway, what I was thinking about was the kind of like when you go to a nice neighborhood or whatever, and they have the big stone sign out front that says,
Monument sign?
huh?
Oh, like monument sign?
Yeah, something like that we could put on each end that would be lighted. I'm actually getting quotes on the electronic ones as well, but I understand from Germantown's experience that those can be a nightmare because you're pretty restricted as to what you can and can't do on them with IDOT. And in fact, they've got one that they spent the money on for the digital portion. Metamora did.
Yeah,
And
Metamora's was the one I was gonna
Yes.
bring up.
Yeah,
They got
and
into a big problem.
and
with
it sits off.
Yeah.
They don't even use it because
They were running business stuff too.
They're
weren't
really
they?
selling ad space.
Selling ad space on it, yeah, that came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the,
No, it was something about advertising a public entity and being on IDOT's right of way. I think the sign was on the right of way and it was violating.
they did not get IDOT approval before putting it in, and then
Yeah.
IDOT threatened to bulldoze it, and the mayor got all puffed up and said, I'll sit myself out there and volunteer,
Yeah.
or, you know, and it became a big deal.
So anyway, I'm getting prices on digital, and eventually we can look at all that stuff and we can decide whether it's something that we want to do. But the monument signs was something that we're talking about doing. Obviously, we need seed money for the programs if we're going to do the business and residential programs. Always good to keep a little dry powder in case there's emergencies that come up, and there might be other things that we want to do. But that would be what we might spend the reserve money on. And then as far as the forward-looking money on the next slide, so that roughly $168,000 a year. And again, we can have all kinds of debate, and you guys will ultimately have to approve this. But one of the things we were talking about doing was maybe doing around $18,000 a year, $1,500 a month to the Park District for their two programs, the building renovation and the new park. And we're going to talk about that in detail here in a little bit. 25K residential program. So what I did is I've been working with the economic development people at the attorney's office, and I'm going to send you around. These are, again, they're just drafts. They're based on Farmington's, and then I made some adjustments based upon what we're doing. All I've got is one copy for you guys to share, so you'll have to look at it. I sent you electronic copies, but I didn't want to waste all the paper. I'll give you a high-level understanding. So on the residential program, basically what you do is we can spend, as long as the home is in the business development district, as long as the home is in the BDD, so it'd have to be within the map, we'll pay for 75% of a cosmetic upgrade to the property, to the home, capping at $2,000 or $2,500. So assuming we get 10 projects that come in at the full amount, that would be our $25,000 a year that we would spend on those 10 homes. And then we'd be able to do that every year. So basically what would happen is every year, 10 homes within the business development district could do something to upgrade the outside of their home, and we would pay for 75% of that upgrade up to $2,500. Does that make sense? Now, if you all say, no, I'd rather do 5 homes at $5,000 or, whatever, 15 homes at, we can figure out however it is that we want to do that. The point here is that we're putting money back into the community to upgrade and help the community upgrade and improve the look of their property within the business development district. Does that make sense? Yeah, so the way the program works is there, and if you look in the details in the packet, there's an application form, there's a map with the district, there's an approval form and all that kind of stuff. The way it works is we would launch and then communicate the program prior to next year's fiscal year. People could submit their projects. The projects would initially go to the Community and Economic Development Council. So those folks on the CEDC would look at them and they could rank them or say, we like these best or whatever. Now, the way Farmington does it is first come, first serve. And we can do it that way if that's the way we want to do it. My personal opinion is we're better off doing it as to which projects we believe are going to have the greatest impact on the community. But we can do it however you all decide that you want to do it. once the CEDC ranks them, then those applications would come to the board with the CEDC's recommendations, and then the board could approve or not approve or whatever the projects they want. The homeowner then goes ahead and does the project, and once the project's done, we would have somebody go out and inspect it, look at it, make sure it's where we need it to be or whatever, and then we would refund the homeowner the $2,500 because they would have to spend the money out of pocket up front to do the project. And we would have access to, all the invoices and all of those types of things as well. That's the way Farmington runs their program. But like I said, the only difference they have is I think they do first come, first serve, and I'm suggesting more of a merit-based reward system. But again, I realize that comes with challenges as well. We don't have to decide that tonight. I think tonight I'm just looking for a general thought of, do you like that type of residential program? What thoughts do you have on it? Would you like it to be richer, less rich? What concerns do you have? Those types of things. So that's the residential program. And you do that every year. The BDD is in existence for 21 years. So we could do that every year for 21 years and slowly be improving the look and feel of the village.
That's just if the TIF never gets, this just because the BDD has the money in it now. to
Correct.
actually
We
start
can
doing
run
stuff,
run similar programs out of TIF later
Yeah.
if we want to.
which would encompass a lot more homes in town.
Yep, and you can always change them. We just have to go back and change the ordinance. We could go back and say, we don't want to do it this year, so we don't do it, or we don't want to, or we want to make it richer, or we want to, the only thing I think we're locked into is you can't do it outside of the district. It
Yeah.
has to be within the BDD.
Basically, all the houses south of, the houses along Main Street and everything south of the highway.
Eric, you had a question?
Well, I was gonna bring something up later, but that I was kind of thinking about, but, so. Does that, how I wanna word it, what goes back in the city, like, where does that money, like, if that money wasn't used for that, would it go to the city to improve the city itself?
It could, yeah, absolutely. Or you could give,
Was there a whole nother program for that?
no,
Or
we could give, and you'll see later, I'm going to make a recommendation or make a suggestion that we use some of the dollars for that.
Here, I guess now's a good time.
Yeah.
For me to say what I was gonna say later. I was thinking the other day that the city's kind of dark. And I don't know who pays for it, how that's, I don't know that, I was just kind of thinking it in my head, I'm like,
Yep.
we added 4 or 5 streetlights every year.
Yep.
Strategically placed, I don't know exactly.
Nope,
what
that's
my
a-
road's terribly dark,
That's a
but-
great
Yeah.
example.
But, and ironically, I get an email from some lighting company yesterday trying to sell city lights. And I thought that was-
We've had that
There's-
conversation
but-
before.
Yeah.
I think,
There's places that are crazy dark that you think would be lighter, and there's places we have street lights.
Right,
Like if my wife walks with her mom around town at
our
night,
road's crazy dark.
yeah, you can stand underneath some of the lights and they don't even hardly make it to the ground.
The one at Jordan Court, somebody
Yeah.
wrapped tape around it, I don't know how or who did
Oh,
that.
seriously?
Yeah, if you look at it, black tape.
I wonder if it was a home. Thing is, if you do have a problem with it shining in there, they make just little shields that bolt on so you don't shine in the house. That's easy to
So there
fix.
used to be a light at the end of the old folks' home, where, right down the street from you.
Yeah.
Where the old folks' home was.
Yeah.
There used to be a street light right there with the Navy, which helped light up that whole road.
Yeah.
That's what made me start thinking about, it, and then I kind of been looking around town,
Oh,
and I actually talked to a
Yeah.
couple buddies of mine, and they were like, yeah, there's some pretty dark spots. which
there is,
I
yeah.
kind of thought went along with maybe some of the break-in problems we have. I don't know, it was just something.
Yeah.
no, I think that's,
No,
that's
a
exactly
good
the-
idea, yeah.
those are exactly the types of things that we can spend these dollars on.
And I've had people mention that to,
Trick or treating last night, there was several, I can see up the street, you can see shadows and that's it. you know.
Right.
You don't even know
there's spots that you can get pitch black in the middle of town in a neighborhood where there's zero light coming from anything. Right in the middle of residential
I was gonna
neighborhood.
drive around and kind of note some of the spots.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time.
Yeah.
It was just some like random thought.
Yeah.
No, it's a good thought.
No, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So the projects, you're able to reimburse up to just 2,500?
75% of the project up to $2,500 for the home side.
That's exactly what Farmington did.
That is exactly what Farmington did.
Here it says 15,000.
That's the commercial
That's the
application.
commercial
we're
one.
looking at. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the other sheet, sorry.
the
We'll
residential
get to that.
application's not in here, I don't think.
Yeah, the residential one, there's one of each. The residential program does stay up to $2,500.
I think it'd be pretty safe to say we'll hit that number.
That what?
We'll hit that number on just about every project.
Yeah, that wouldn't be hard to spend.
No, not for a major, I mean, for what
Yeah.
projects are these gonna count? You're talking siding, gutters,
Yeah,
shutters.
porch.
Landscaping,
Yeah.
trees,
Porches and, yeah.
roofing.
Except on commercial, roofing's not allowed.
Yeah, so again, I'm open to, at the end of the day, the CEDC and you all kind of have to decide, you want it to be richer. You know, the thing is, we've only got X amount of money, right? And you'll see when we get done, I'm not suggesting we spend 100% of the money that's coming in. Just so we have something to shoot at, I'm suggesting 1,500 or 18,000 a year of the 168 going to the park district. 25,000 a year to the residential program, $50,000 a year to the commercial program, which is 118,000 total, leaving us roughly 50,000 that's unallocated. And we need to have a debate about, do we want to spend any of this money on utility type stuff? Because we can, or would we rather not?
Utility wise, it can be anywhere in town, not just in the BDD.
I think that's correct. And so what I've done is I've got Jim working on, if we were to line the rest of the sewer lines, another 10 to, and I've got it later in here, but another 10 to 12,000 linear feet of sewer, and we took out a loan for that, you know, what would that, how much would that loan be? And would $50,000 a year cover that for, 21 years? Or is that a smart move, a smart use of the money? I mean, that would mean, in my mind, then we would have a program for roads. We'd have a program where almost every sewer was taken care of. The lagoon is probably 10 years away from needing work, so we need to plan for that. And then the other big thing would be water, and if we're going to do water, that's a big one. And so, again, I wanted to talk with Jeff about this, but do we just say wait, and when we do water, we do the tower and everything together and just raise rates rather than sell the water district, and we can control the rates, and they would be still less than what they would be if you sold them to, but we'd have to raise them for a period of time in order to cover all those new and additional costs. I don't know.
We have to do what we have to do, obviously, with the stuff to be fixed, but I know the way towns work, people are very visual. And they have no idea what we're doing in this meeting, and they have no idea that we're lining the sewer lines, they'll have no idea that's going on. So I agree, part of that project does have to be pushing something for a visual aspect.
Well, and again, we call it Community and Economic Development Council, so that's why we wanted to spend some money with the Park District, and why we want to spend some money on the residential homes, and yes, we want to put some money back into businesses, of course, but we don't want to do all of that. And again, I can't say this strongly enough. All I did is build something for us to start looking at and shooting holes on based upon the feedback I've gotten. We can massage it however we want. Any other questions on the residential program or any other thoughts before?
I think if the town gives back that amount to people in the city, they feel more justified about the property taxes and things.
But it's not gonna be available to anybody.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's still.
And that's
it's
gonna
still
cause
helps.
the issue
Well,
also.
Sure, no matter what you do.
It is what it is.
The BDD is gonna be real limited to south of the highway, mainly those, and then houses in the front main, and then hopefully the TIF gets a bounce in it someday, which will, it's all but one neighborhood would qualify underneath the TIF. They would open up way more of the town. And the neighborhood that doesn't qualify the TIF is because it's mostly newer homes anyway, so they don't really need a facade improvement program, so. Yeah, exactly. Way better than nothing.
The other thing I like about, and we'll talk about it in a second on the commercial side though, is it also provides some money to reinforce the businesses that have been here forever. Not just, rewarding the new startup and sending them to do things, so. Okay, so let's talk about the commercial side, and again, I passed around a copy of it as well. The commercial side is basically what we were saying was, is you can see in there, there's a map and we've kind of drawn a red line, or on yours, maybe it's not colored to show a dark line, where we've kind of just come in one block off of 116, I think from basically Murphy to Pekin, roughly. So I'm calling that the 116 corridor. And what we were thinking is 5 grants a year. Now this is richer than Farmington's program. I think they do 7,500 as their cap for the businesses, and we can do that. But we're not as big. We don't have as many businesses. We're doing 5 businesses a year in that corridor. It's not going to take long to do.
I was gonna say, that may be a temporary program. It may work for 1 year. You may not get 5 people apply.
So, I mean, you could do everything from, let's say the Hog Trough wants to do a parking lot and signage. Or I know KP Wings would like to do a parking lot. If we want to refurbish the mall and they want to paint, redo the awnings around there, or put additional lighting in, or what have you. Or Myers Old Mall, what do they want? Is there something they want to do, with that? So again, just for something to shoot at, we're looking at 5 grants at $15K, 75% of the project up to $15K of the 75% of the verified cost. Again, we can do the whole business development district if we want. If you don't want to just do the 116 corridor, or we can change the dollars around and have the financing be different. There's all kinds of things that we can do differently. Again, this was just thinking out loud. So if we did those 3 things, the park district at $1,500 or $18,000 a year, the residential programs at $25K cap, and the commercial programs at $75K cap, that's $118, leaving us roughly $50,000 of the current income that we've got left annually. And so phase 2, what I was suggesting on the BDD side was, do we want to do the sewer renovation and take out a new loan and check that box and have that done? Or do we not? Do we want to save that money for a possible water program? Or do we want to do lighting through town? Or it's endless. Do we want to do sidewalks? Do we want to do, there's all kinds of things that we could do with the dollars in order to. But those are the hard decisions, right? Is, like you said, sewer's not sexy, right? But it's a need. Yeah. But nice old style streetlights are really cool and make the community look a lot nicer, and they're safer, and sure. And that's another good point, is we can, just like with the park district.
Huge grant for the downtown revitalization program,
I mean, and they asked for donations to cover the rest, so it wasn't just up on to the city.
Sure.
So, I mean, and that way we could get people involved, they know what's going on. Like, if you want fancy lights, if you want just lighting, that's probably not as expensive.
Have we got anything on the tower, it still would just be a straight loan, essentially.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, if you went USDA or EPA, there's a possibility a portion of it would be forgiven. But the last time we designed line the sewers, it was a $750,000 project, and we're spending $30,000 a year. Is that right? No, $30,000 a year on it, and that's at 1.5%. Well, the interest rates now are at 3.5%, and it's going to be more expensive to do it. So, and we have about the same amount to do. So maybe you can't do all of it. Maybe you only do half of it.
I'm wondering how long we kick the water tower down the road.
That's probably an EPA
They might tell us
decision.
2 years.
Yeah.
Call them off.
But in my
I
mind,
doubt it. They can't really it'd be rough to have you force your hand on spending the money. They send us the letter every year that we don't have enough storage, and we kind of get by with the letter we write back to them, that Brandon writes back to them. But since it's not a public health issue. We don't have anything in the water. I don't think they'd ever say you have to spend the money to build a new water tower. 'Cause we'd be like, well, give us the money then. We don't have the money to spend to do it. You know, what's their end game? Are you gonna fine us for not doing it so we have less money to spend on the tower? You know what I mean? It's,
No, but we could
You know.
sell it.
do what?
We could sell it is the problem.
Yeah,
So we do have a way out.
yeah, you do, but prefer
then-
not to.
And that, yeah, that creates other issues, right, in terms, so I guess, right or wrong, where I've settled on the water question is if they called tomorrow and said, do it, we have to do it within 2 years.
Yeah,
In my mind, we're gonna have to take out a loan, and we do water all at once, and we bite the bullet, and we raise rates, and to cover it for a period of time, and that's better than it's better for the community
yeah,
if we do it that way, than if, it's probably better for the village or for the board if we sold it, took the money and did other things with it. But from a village perspective, it's probably better because we wouldn't have to raise the rates to the same level that Illinois American would probably raise them to if we sold it, and we'd keep control. And
yeah.
so right or wrong, in my mind, roads are covered, sewer's half done. How do we get the other half done? Lagoon, we don't have to worry about for 10 or 15 years, according to Jim. So that leaves water. If water were to trigger, then we do it, raise rates to cover it.
We wouldn't want to spend any of this for water as opposed to line and sewers.
We could.
Yeah.
That's another option.
Well, have you posed that question to Jim? Like,
Yeah, I mean, when we had the discussion with Brandon, we talked about it, and I think we all kind of settled into, especially now that we found a leak, and we think that's having some impact, that we kind of put a pause on water until they were forced, our hand is forced, and
yeah,
then we see where we're at financially, right? Because by the time our hand is forced, I mean, gosh, if our TIF district grows to, if it's 8 years from now and our TIF district goes to $600,000 or $500,000 a year, then we're in a different,
the line and sewers have a good impact on the lagoons too. Because you don't have the groundwater irrigation.
so it may not be the right way to think, but I'm thinking to myself, how do I check off boxes? How do
Yeah.
I get stuff done, right?
I was just curious which box would need to check off for the water tower line and the sewers.
Sounds like you create a 5 to 10 year plan.
Yeah, and that's, you and I are gonna meet next week to kind of have a financial discussion around all that, but I think that's right. I mean, I think it's,
You don't necessarily want to pass up, I mean, a year or two from now, interest rates come dropping down. You don't always want to just wait for that burden to be thrown on you, especially if there's a good opportunity to get the money to do it. We know we don't want to sell it.
I mean, the water lines themselves, the leaks were costing us, what, $30,000 to $40,000 a year? So even if we fixed them all, it's not a ton of, I mean, it's savings, but it's not a ton.
Yeah.
Plus, we just found a leak, and again, I don't want to steal your thunder, but from last month to this month, our water purchases is down 4,000, and same month year over year, it was down 3,000. Now, there's a million variables that go into that, right?
Yeah.
People could have used less water, who knows?
I'm
There's
not
all,
watering my garden anymore.
so there's all kinds of variables that go into that. And Jim's doing more analysis, but let's say we take $5,000 a year out of that already with that leak. I mean, there's not a ton of money to save on the leak, and then we're not forced to do the water tower, and it's functioning. So do we roll the dice and do the sewer and hope that the TIF district comes to fruition? I don't know.
Yeah.
What happens with the EPA if there's a boil order? We shut down our supply. We run out of water.
Well, we had that happen. We had
Yeah,
that
it's
happen.
happened. You're just not drinking it. You still bathe in it.
What happens to, I mean, do you get any kind of?
Well, it brings up the whole discussion again of, well, you don't have the capacity, and, what are you going to do about that? And we say all the right things. We've got a shovel-ready plan, and we've worked with our engineers, and, and then it goes away.
I got a random question.
Yeah.
If the fire department uses 40,000 gallons of water fighting a fire, who pays for that?
Us.
We do.
The city?
Yep.
Because I know it's all coming from Illinois American Water, and it comes here, and we pay for what comes to this.
There's one hydrant in town that's directly off Illinois American Water's main. Otherwise, everything else is off the city's tower. So, The one up by the firehouse along the highway is right off their main. Yeah, exactly, because they're sucking right off the only American water instead of out of our tower. Yeah, yep,
I wondered about that a while back.
yeah.
Why wouldn't we-
When the auto body place burned, I think Jim actually came up that night. Nobody in here was probably when that happened, but, well, you would have been. Just, yeah, they're along along Glassford Road, Blacktop.
I know where it's at, but I didn't know.
Honda City Glassford Road, when, that building burned right at the edge of, Robin Court.
Oh, was there a different building there?
Oh, years ago.
Yeah, 10 or
Is
12.
that why it's
The old
vacant?
McMahill building.
Yeah, the old
by-
McMahill
by the
building.
tracks there, yeah.
I think
Okay.
Jim went up at night and turned I think he actually turned the limits, or turned the pressure up some, because they were, I mean, they were sucking the tower dry, essentially, for that fire.
I guess in summary, we don't need to, continue to think about it, give me your thoughts and ideas. We'll do the same thing with the CEDC. If you have strong feelings on something, call me, send me an email, whatever.
I'm curious if we have 5 businesses apply for, just trying to think who's in that corridor. I mean, we don't have that many businesses in town.
Well, I would
Maybe we
think,
do the first year and then it just, and maybe it's a program that trickles off after 3 years because
yeah, I
we
mean, I
don't
would
have 15
think,
businesses in town.
Massey would be interested with the old Casey's.
Yeah,
I would think the Hog Trough would be interested.
Yeah.
I would think, I know KP's is interested. I would think, the mall would probably have some interest. I think, I don't know about the bank. I don't know about some of the smaller places like Honegger's or the insurance place, or I don't know about them.
yeah,
More than you think.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm thinking 5 a year though, 3 years, that's 15. Can you get over 15 businesses in town for me along that route? Yeah, so I mean,
Or-
which is fine. If it
or-
runs
or
its
you-
course in 3 years and it's good, then great,
Or you may have,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
yeah,
Should we expand it to the whole BDD?
you could, we
You
could.
know,
Yeah, again, my thought process was when I went back and looked at the strategic work that they did long before I was here, when Fred was here, one of the things they talked about was one of the most valuable things is that corridor and making that look as nice as possible because of the volume of traffic that goes through there. So,
yeah, 100%.
but you're right. I mean, the Hannah City Tap, the Sportsman's Club. I mean, there's other pretty sizable places within town that could use some of those dollars to do some good things.
Yeah, you probably capture another few businesses if you open this whole BDD.
So I don't know whether you start just on the 116 corridor and then, like you said, you expand it to all the BDD later, or you just do it the whole BDD from the beginning and push projects out further if you don't.
If you're not gonna do first come, first serve, you can always prioritize the ones longer, just open it up to everybody and prioritize the route with your choices, have that as one of your criteria, is like, if it comes down to, these are equal, we'll give it to the route one to do first, you apply next year, you're guaranteed to get it then.
The other thing is, this is a lot more fun to have these types of conversations, isn't it? Than
When you don't have any money.
yeah, or something's broken and you don't have any money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good place to be to have discussions about how do we spend dollars to improve the community. But I do think there's some serious questions. I know at one point there were people on the board who didn't want to spend any economic development money to fix utility type stuff. They were dead set against that, and that may be the right thing. I don't know. But I think if you're spending some money on residential and you're spending some money on businesses and you're spending some money on the park district and you still have money left over, then my opinion is, well, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you wanna check that box. But I don't have to vote. I just have to.
I guess my thing
Either
is,
way, they're paying for it, right?
Yeah.
This is stuff we're gonna fix, whether we're gonna do it. Either way, they're just paying for it.
well, BDD's nice, cause anybody that spends a dime in the village is paying for it, so everybody buys gas at Casey's that passes through, so, yeah, anybody eats at KP's or Gills or any place else is helping us along the way with the BDDs.
And that's a whole other point. We've been trying to make that point as we've been going
Yeah.
along, that the more you buy local, the more you get to do these things. And as
Yeah.
as we make them happen, we can make that point even further so people understand that those things are helpful. But
I'd probably open the commercial to everybody and just prioritize the corridor for the first year. And Zach mentioned the house, and you probably thinking the same thing, 2,500 doesn't go very far. I would almost do, I'd almost do less houses and raise their cap, so they could do more on the
Five at
front.
five.
Do
Yeah,
what?
the 5,000.
Yeah, or something, yeah, exactly, something like that.
Yeah.
Problem.
Because you have a smaller part of town that's eligible anyway residentially, so, yeah, I mean, with that, you could do siding a porch and, you know,
Still do 75%, right?
yeah, 75%, but the cap be 5 instead of the cap be 25, because, you know, let them do more. It might get more interest in, if they're like, oh, that's real money, if I could come up with, you know, one part of the 4, then there's real money, I could do porch, I could do siding, windows on the front. I would think those would qualify, they're visual, you know,
250 feet of fence is $6,000.
yeah.
Just for example, that's the most recent quote I
Yeah.
got. Vinyl's 11,000.
Yeah.
Put that in perspective.
$3,500 on gutters.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. So somebody with this,
With leaf guard.
you'd almost be blown out of your grant just doing gutters on the front that could be seen from the road, so. Yeah, if we're sticking to the 25, I'd like
So-
5 for 5 or something like.
So find a way to
Design.
make the residential richer and open up the commercial to the full district and just prioritize.
Yeah, yeah, same amount of money, just less homes, more cap, let them do more of a real project. You know,
I made a note.
yeah, I like that idea. I think it's
I
Gills,
think it-
even if you drive by Gills, once you get past their parking, it is black down that
I'll
street.
drive around and kind of notate some
Do it like 2 in the morning and go slow.
Well,
You want to see it on hand, see that?
well, so there again, the debate is, do you put them up and down 116 as a draw?
I was looking on the way in here, almost every street has one at 115. I mean, I don't think we need to go fancy like Freeport did or Farmington. we've done
Yeah, yeah.
ours. I think just get
They were probably put in
everything
with
well lit.
by
Freeport's
IDOT,
beautiful.
probably
It's
because
not-
it's like the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
But that's
Why
why
not build the
It
sidewalk?
is.
You know,
Yeah.
bang for buck there.
Well, I think there's also an avenue for, like you said, with grant with that, even if you don't pay for that, there is grant money for upgrading to LED to better stuff around right now, so.
And we've put in, Bill Steer, when he was on the board, used to drive around and make a list, because some places had lights and they didn't even get to the ground. I mean, they were just pitiful. So we'd submit a list to Ameren, and when they have time, they'll come swap LED heads for the old heads, and they'll upgrade the existing light location, so,
I think the old-fashioned chart would do us well there.
yeah.
Highest in crime,
So
highest.
the-
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
The
say.
company that I got, I don't know if you sent it to me or how I got it, but
I didn't send it to you.
it's, Alico Supply. We are the
They're-
LED and
yeah.
solar LED light manufacturer that specializes in LED lights. We sell in municipalities, cities, and towns like yours. And offer factory direct price. I just thought it was weird that I got that, and I was just thinking about how dark the box was.
Yeah,
That, you know, that was the first thing that popped in my
yeah,
mind.
probably. You probably said it out loud at one point, but,
Yeah.
Targeted
we were
ads.
talking about it at Menards the other day,
yeah.
cause he's thinking about getting on the part that.
Who is? Uh-oh. I thought you said the name, never mind.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Adam Woodson.
He just joined us.
Yep. But we were talking about it, and that's when I said
Yeah.
that, I'm like, come on. seriously. But, yeah.
I like the idea of lighting in those certain places, along the corridor. I mean, if we're talking about new entrance signs and stuff, I'd kind of like to spend some time, or the group spend some time to come up with like, what do we want the town to look like? If we're gonna do signs and lighting and stuff like that, what do we want the town to look like? What kind of feel do we want it to have coming through the corridor? Instead of piecemealing some of these things together, and we think of it as a cohesive unit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Germantown Hills did, cohesive different signs. They did the entrance signs at either end of town. The one at Village Hall, the one at the community center, they made them all match.
yeah,
So they're all, and the one at the library now matches too. So everything kind of has the same feel.
So everything that was a public building or public sign, you could tell was
Yeah.
same family of,
And they're monument signs. They're big
Yeah.
boulders.
But your point is, you could put together some sort of branding template, and we can't force a business to follow it, I guess. but-
yeah,
just, our own signage.
Sure.
Like design uniform.
yeah.
Yeah.
This says we're upgrading the town, what do we want the style to be? Brian, I just want to go
Yeah.
to the last slide on there.
Yeah.
When I looked back at our minutes and it says November 9th.
Thank you for the update. So it's Wednesday the 9th.
I thought I had my minutes wrong. Oh, I did get that wrong. I think I put 7. I thought they were.
Thank you, Zach.
We counted that one.
So then, I want to switch to the Park District, and before, invite Megan to talk here. So basically, one of the things that we've been talking about, well, let me back up. I don't know, it's probably been 3 or 4 months ago, maybe even longer, where I met with the Park District and said, just vision, for me, what is it that you guys are wanting to do? I think, Ryan, you're the one that set that up for us. And they came in and talked about, the struggles they have with their existing building. They've got they had Brandon's group draw up a whole design of what the park might look like, and at a very high level. And there's a presentation deck here that's just a draft at this point, but basically it boils down to that there's 2 key bodies of work. One is to update the existing facilities. Some of it very functional stuff like windows and HVAC and things like that. And some of it's more cosmetic. And then the other piece of it is with that green space that's across the street is to put in something from a brand new park perspective. And right now, Megan and her team, Megan's running the project for the Park District. Her and her team are putting together a list of what it might all look like and getting it down to, okay, so if we had these projects for the existing building and these projects for the park, what roughly would that cost? We've had a working number of around $800,000. That's probably rich, more than what we need, but we don't know that for sure at this point. I've been making connections with the Park District, with the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, and we've also got some people from the EPA looking at what kind of energy savings grants and things that might be available. But at the end of the day, what would happen is the Park District would, they'd get a grant for as much as they could get for the park or for the buildings or whatever. Then they would need to get a low interest loan for the remainder of the stuff. And then our role would be for the 21 years of the BDD, we would commit $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year to help pay a portion of that loan. And they would pay, maybe another $1,500. We looked at the 800,000, the low interest loans is like 3.5%. We were using a number of around $500,000 or 520,000. It came out that the payment would be anywhere from like 2,600 to 3,200. So if we were doing 1,500 and they were doing 1,500, it gets us close in order to get there. And you'd have a refurbished building and a brand new park with a pavilion and walking trail and all of that kind of stuff. So. But Megan and her team are working on the details with that. I'm going to shut up, Megan. Thanks for coming to the meeting.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Have at it. What do you
Have
want
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys have the presentation, I think, in the packet, correct, Brian?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. It's like he said, it's kind of a rough draft at this point. Ron's been helping tremendously with this project as far as meeting with contractors and getting estimates and putting a lot of time into it. So all of these at this point are very broad because we don't have it locked down to exactly what we want. But hopefully this month we'll be able to narrow it down a little bit more with the board. Ron and I plan on presenting everything that we have later this month. So right now, like Brian said, we're looking at about 800,000. It looks like that's not concrete. There's a couple things that we may eliminate if we can't really see a return on investment with those. But I know our goal at the Park District, and probably something that you guys will want to hear if this actually, all pans out well, is that we want you guys' help, obviously, but we want to get to a point in 5 to 10 years where we don't need your help anymore financially, that we can sustain this on our own. And having a facility that is upgraded, and then the park, I mean, what that's going to do for the community, I feel like is huge. But it's also going to provide us with more opportunities to become more financially independent. We'll have energy costs reduced. We'll be able to hold day camps that we haven't been able to do in the past because we don't have air conditioning. It's very hard to have kids in a gym all day long when it's 98 degrees and the floor's wet from the humidity. And with an aging building, we're constantly dealing with maintenance problems. So I feel like this will be huge for us in terms of month to month, like the financial burden that we're seeing just on a month to month basis. Now, some of the ideas too that we've had as far as gaining income is from the daycare side. Rogies has been a great tenant for us, and we see opportunity to rent additional spaces to them to help pay for the loan each month. With an updated fitness center, we think that we'll be able to, within the first year alone, see an increase of about 50 memberships a month just the first year. And if that happens, that will be a huge portion of that as well. And I feel like we'll get there. We've been close before, but with older equipment in a facility that needs a lot of work, it's hard to keep people when you have Planet Fitness and such. So I think this will really help us get there. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions? That's a lot. I know you haven't had a chance to read through it all. And I could probably sit here and talk to you for an hour because I'm very
Megan, can you
excited.
speak a little bit to the vision of the park?
Yeah. So
What would
have
be
you
the-
guys seen the past vision board that we had created with Farnsworth Group? It was in the green space across from the park district.
Some of us have, some of us
I
haven't.
think so.
Okay. In that vision board, it's not exactly what we're looking at now. There's a splash pad and there's a lot of talk about maybe that not being something we want to do. There's a lot of long-term costs of maintaining that. But a walking path around the entire green space, a pavilion that includes restrooms, like a kitchen, concession stand area, a staging for bands or other community events, whether it's talent shows or, there's so many uses for it. Also, we've talked about community gardens and even looking at having ways to raise funds within the park, doing a brick fundraiser where families can put their family name on a brick and add it to the walking path, or businesses in town donating money to have a bench, a park bench, or boulders just scattered throughout just for aesthetic reasons, but also another way for us to include the community and bring in money. But right now that green space is basically just that. It's just a big open space. So every time we have an event, we have to rent the porta potties. We have to get, food trucks if we want to do that, or bring over a concession stand. Everything is very volunteer heavy because everything has to be moved out there that day and then brought back inside or to its home where we rented it at the end of the event. And so I think this will not only look good for the community, but I think it'll help the park district in our growth and becoming a lot more sustainable without the need to keep coming to you guys for help.
Yeah, so again, I think the PDD's 21 years, so we would be making a commitment for whatever, if it's $1,500 a month or whatever for those 21 years. But to Megan's point, once we get it built, if they get to the place where they don't need that seed money anymore and they're operating independently, then there's an option that we could, stop that and pull the money back and then move and use those dollars somewhere else. But for me, going back to kind of a holistic approach, if we're doing something for the park district, if we're doing something for residents, if we're doing something for businesses, especially established businesses, not just new businesses, we're putting that money back into the community. I think the whole community and economic development program starts to take on a new face and get some traction.
Yes, I think so too.
So
I know our goal is definitely to be able to do this on our own, in as short of amount of time as we can make it possible. So
Eric's got
hopefully
a
that
question.
we can get other projects. What was that?
Eric's got a question, I think.
Well, the money that's generated in the park district fund, help fund,
Unfortunately, I can't hear Eric.
does it go back to the city? Or
No.
It goes back straight, all of them?
They're their own taxing body, the park district,
Okay,
they're
that's
separate.
what I was getting at.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The question, Megan, was about whether or not the park district is its own taxing body, and I think you operate on a completely different, we're educating the group here that you operate on a completely different set of books. You get about $18,000 a year in tax dollars, if I'm not mistaken. And then you
Yep,
get
nope, you're
additional,
correct.
yeah, additional money from fundraisers and the use of the current building and so forth.
Yeah, so we're also, as part of, the plan moving forward and to generate income, we're also hoping that after we are able to make improvements to the building, bring a park to the community, that we'll also be able to do a tax referendum that following year, because we've shown that we're, worthy of using tax dollars and creating a great space for our community. So that'd be another piece of that puzzle. Because currently
And so-
$18,000 doesn't even pay for our Ameren bill.
So to put that in perspective, I think your current, people pay roughly what, residents pay like $25 a year.
Yeah, the average household is right at 24.
So if they did a referendum, even if they doubled that, that's another $18,000 a year. If we're providing $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year, now we've tripled their income. We've got them to the place where they've got a functional building that's not more expensive to run than they can bring in their current money. You've got a new park where they can do some things there. And eventually, to her point, is we get to the place where they're standing on their own 2 feet, and we can take our $1,500 and go do something else with it or not, depending on where we're at.
It'd be very beneficial to them to have, hard users, and it's not really inviting. If they got that health club more inviting, I think it would greatly help them.
Yeah,
She said they, the Planet Fitness,
Yeah,
that's their competition.
I mean, I think the park's a nice idea across the road, but I think the building is crucial for you guys. I mean, if you lose the building, you kind of lost the park district. I mean, right now you have a gym, you have Rogies up there. I mean, I'm 100% in support in doing this and giving the money because, for one thing, if you renovate that building, your utility bills go down, make it more efficient. And that building kind of is the epicenter of the park district. I mean, you have a gym that's in demand and gets used all the time. I know people use it. Rogies is up there, which is great. They have, name value that people want to take their kids there for daycare. And, that's got to be the number one priority is getting the building ship shape. The park's great across the road for the whole thing, but, the building kind of is the park district. That's kind of what started is you had this building you could start with that you could never ever build for $800,000 with a gym or anything. You'd be 2 or 3 times that, or, whatever. It'd be a humongous expense. So, you definitely got to get that thing in great condition,
Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. I agree. If we lose it, we'll never get it back.
Exactly. Never. If you lose it, the park district pretty much is done. I mean,
Yep.
you got to keep it where it's at right now at the worst and get, that's got to happen as quick as possible is getting the money poured into that building, even the shape it's in now, you still have demand for the gym, people are using it. So imagine if you can get the rest of, like Eric said, the health part of it and everything else is inviting and make it nicer for Rogies and they can rent more space and attract more people. So yeah, it's a win all the way around.
Well, and you bring up a good point because we've had a lot of discussions on scope, and that scope may ultimately change. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm glad Megan's on point for the park district. It's their project. We'll do everything that we can to help them. We're going to funnel everything through her. But we just wanted to start and say, well, if we did everything, what's it going to cost, right? And then if we need to back up from that, there's maybe a lot of things that we back up from. Your board may say, Megan, we're not comfortable with 800,000. We don't want to take on that level of risk. We only want to take on half of it. Or we can't find a grant for as big as what we thought, or there's all kinds of things that
The whole thing's a great idea, but the default should be we're doing the building. That's kind of our bottom thing. Because if you don't do the building, then what are you doing? I mean, are you gonna continue even? So that's gotta be the default fallback is
Understand.
the building's
Yeah,
happening,
Caleb,
you know.
I 100% agree with you there. We
Yeah.
can always have this could be a multiple project
Yeah.
piece.
If
You
everything
know,
starts
this is
clicking,
not,
you engage the park part of the plan later, maybe, if you can't do it all at once. Do the building and then, hey, everything falls in place, then we'll start working on the park. You have the property, it's not gonna go anywhere, so, you know, that's
Yeah.
one advantage, so,
yep, I understand.
yeah,
I know a lot of people from the town go to Peoria to the gym.
Yeah.
A lot.
yeah, oh, yeah, a
I
ton,
mean, I'm running through my head right now. I don't know, people that I know.
yeah, oh, yeah,
They
100.
had something better here than go.
Yeah, yeah, agree 100%. Yeah, it's a nice feature that a lot of small towns can't get because they don't have a school building there that was in decent shape. I mean, you'll never ever build it for, no town will ever be able to start a park district and build a building that big with a gym in it and the amenities it has, you know.
No. Nope, it's a gem. We
Yeah.
just have to take care of it.
Yep, hardwood floor, so it's a nice legit gym. I thought it was wood floor there.
Logan's was.
Oh, Logan's was, that's right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the gym floor is like a tile.
That's
The walls are wood.
Well, you could refloor the gym.
They put tile on the walls and put it on the floor.
Yeah. Well, you could refloor the gym as part of the deal. I mean, that gym gets this high demand use.
The entire ceiling is all wood.
Yeah.
The whole gym floor is tile.
Well, that's where we are. We've got a general concept. Megan's working hard with her team to refine it down to what they want to really do and bite off. And then we can start working on, grant funding and loan funding. And eventually they'll come to the CEDC and make a request for support for the loan and ultimately make a request to the board after the CEDC. The one other thing that may come up is they may not have the ability to get a loan, and so we may have to come alongside them to help out with that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but to your point in terms of planning or visioning, in my mind, can you imagine 5 years from now if we've spent money doing 5 businesses a year and 10 homes a year, and the park district's revitalized, and we've got the lighting in place that we want and the new signs on each end of the, road. I mean, that's, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
It's a cool place to live.
And
Oh, the new slogan.
Hey,
yeah, and it's,
put that on the t-shirt.
the thing is, it's feasible. It's not,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
it's doable.
Expect the BDD to be pretty consistent. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's eating and pouring gas the same rate and drinking, so, do up. Business is here real stable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'd like come for the bush light, stay for the hangover, but nobody else.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
I feel like it's definitely applicable.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for Megan? Megan, anything else for us?
No, thank you guys.
Thanks, Megan.
You're welcome to stay, Megan. If you don't want to, you're welcome to go. You're not going to hurt our feelings either way. We're good.
Okay.
Man, these administrator reports.
Getting longer and longer, aren't they?
Are we done with,
I suppose we could do nothing.
Yeah. Those of you that like to stay after the meeting, Brian will do his report.
I am done. Thank you.
All right, that was it there then. On the committee reports, finance.
I believe when we talked about Brian, was the tax levy ordinance be voted on next week.
Yep, that's right.
Other than that, that's the end of my report.
Perfect. I have no report, I believe. Anything through?
All right, got a couple things here. We have 2 quotes for you guys. One is the Country Air Lift Station rehab. It's a bit of a hefty price tag, so we've done one before. Which one did we do?
We did Chicago. What was the one? Didn't we just do this one? Or was it Elbert?
Albert Court's been redone, I think.
It was Elbert. And that was 45 or 46,000, something like that.
Yeah, so this one, we went through the same company to get quotes. What's the grand total? for this?
51 and change.
So, yeah, it's 12% higher than it was before, so I'd kind of like to get some other quotes.
How long ago was
I'm
it?
surprised it's not.
6 months, 7 months.
6 months.
That's it?
12% increase is nothing right now. Yeah.
Hey, Bill, quick question. If we're gonna do, if we do this project, we need to put it out for bid, right? Because it's over 20,000.
Correct.
And remind me the process for doing that.
So there's really no specified standard. The test is, did you make a reasonable attempt to make the target set of types of contractors aware of the project? So you get, you can't just, in the dark of night, hand it out your car window to one contractor and go, oh yeah, we advertised it, so.
So does it have to be posted in the paper?
I don't think that hurts. Kind of depends on who you're looking for though. And I defer to some of the guys and gals sitting around the table there as far as what industry, there's certain industry websites and things where you could post as well, I believe.
Okay. And so tonight, would we be voting on just putting it out for bid? Or do we even need to vote on that?
Yeah, you don't really need to vote to put it out for bid. You just need to vote to accept the winning bid when you get it.
Okay. All right.
Are we in the point where we have to take the lowest responsible bidder?
No.
Just kind of-
You gotta have a reason.
There's not.
Uh,
I mean, for me, I think the best option might be just to put something public and take all comers and see who, but maybe you disagree. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where else to do it.
Would you ask Ben if he knows
Yeah.
where these people are?
I mean, historically, these are the people that have done the work for us. And again, I don't want to presume that they're necessarily going to be the ones again, but they've treated us pretty well. And
Yeah, Harris always been really fair with us. They're a quality company.
but again, I think to your point, it doesn't hurt to, get an extra set of numbers and see. I understand, but there's also a benefit to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe somebody else's numbers are a little bit lower.
Yeah.
So that's that, and then also we had an issue with lagoon aeration. They have repaired / replaced. There's a quote there, I'm guessing from the company that we usually use for that as well. For $1,464.
Oh, it looks like it's just supplies.
Yeah.
Material, yeah.
Jim and the guys are going to do the work.
Yeah, it's just materials, so. Yeah, exactly.
So that we do need to vote on, I think, right?
So I will make this to approve expenses for the lagoon aeration repair of $1,464.64.
Second.
Motion Pearson, second Schwager, or, Shervelli. Oh, you did? Oh, I thought it was you for sure. Sidek, never mind. Wasn't looking up. We got roll call this? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Roll call. Well, I lost it. As soon as I looked at you, I had to figure it out 2 seconds ago. I lost it.
Yes.
Sidek.
Yes.
Johnson, yes.
Man.
Passes.
Brian, you can let Jim know.
Yep.
And that is it for sanitary sewer.
Right, you go water.
Water, nothing to report other than what Roger talked about. The October water prices, 14,000, and last year they were 17,000. So that's not something to do with to fix the leak, but there's a bunch of other factors. So
This is a new league we found?
That's the one that got
The one that we
fixed
already
in
knew about.
Weaver's, yeah.
Just now got fixed.
Yeah.
No, we fixed it. We're just trying to track how much are we saving.
I
Yeah.
was real curious to see the 3 or 4 month five, if it consistently is down
And
3,000
so,
every month. then-
looking at water purchases is not the best approach, right? Because people can buy, and so Jim needs to go in and look at the gallons used and that kind of stuff. And it's an indicator, maybe, but Jim's doing some additional analysis to see.
Last October.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was last October was 17,000, now we're at 14, but there's a ton of stuff in there that it could affect that, so it could be that leak. but
Because that's
once
purchases,
moving
that's
forward,
dollars, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll pay attention to that. But, yeah, fingers crossed that that keeps reflecting as the months go on. That is it for water.
Rob, is there anything for buildings and grounds? Rob not here, probably not.
The only thing I would say is they got 14 of those boxes for the electronic waste. You know, we did the electronic
Oh.
waste over at the,
Really?
where people dropped them off
And
there.
no issues of people dumping toilets in or anything?
No, they had guys watched and
Oh,
made
okay.
sure, and they had the totes or whatever labeled with what can be, and then they went through them. So sometimes people threw some things in there, but they just pulled them out and took care of them. But
So 14 of those things?
14 of those things.
Holy cow, yeah, that is a ton of OPVs.
And I think there's two more.
Successful then, I guess.
Yes, very.
I got something to kind of go along with that, how it works. A lot of cities do tire pickup.
Oh,
You get-
yeah.
You get like 10, 20 free or.
Farmington
whatever.
Township's done it before.
They just have that open. and it
There's
can't-
enough.
Peoria County has something that they.
The Farm Bureau
You
runs a
never know
program.
until it's over.
The Farm Bureau, Peoria County Farm Bureau runs a program.
We don't all have 5 years out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I have a couple old tires sitting in my dirt pile.
So you're saying just to bring them
I think you just
behind your
burn 'em.
house
No.
and just add them
They're
to?
not behind
Please, he lives
there.
across
I
the
live
street.
behind. So no, I'm just saying.
These burn the old rubber tree the other night.
Have a weenie roast.
Yeah.
Well,
The,
why
uh,
don't you
Most
check with
carcinogenic
them,
weenie roast
see if
ever.
They can offer some kind of where you pay to have them and they can recycle them. That's on
They
your
got
to-do
somebody pick
list.
them up, just like we do at work.
I
I
know,
take
that's
them
what
to
I'm
work,
saying,
it's
if
over.
we paid the disposal fee, would they take
I mean,
them?
there's 2 or 3 companies around here that buy used tires, and it's about $3 a tire. $2.50, $3 for a tire, they come pick them up and you pay them.
Yeah, Farmington Township, I think, did that a few years ago. If you lived in the township, you could bring it up to their township building, and they had some bulk pickup there that was also grabbing theirs. Yeah,
Has anybody used the landscape waste pickup?
no.
I think we have 2 more weeks of that.
If anybody likes to rake my yard, sure.
Is it, can you burn in this town?
Yeah.
I mean, anytime? or
There's
just-
rules.
There's
Have to have a
rules.
barrel and it's
No
not.
trash,
That's probably it.
no leaves.
I don't think anybody has a barrel.
Yeah.
I've got one.
There's a lady burning almost on the street.
I cannot use it, nothing ever burns in it.
Use a tire.
Yeah, yeah, once they start going, they'll be good for a while. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's used it or not. I haven't seen anything out on my street at least, but I don't pay that much attention.
Leaves really haven't fallen until last week.
Yeah.
I
So
think-
it was a little early on the,
I think-
So I don't know
Oh,
if they
yeah.
just don't know it's a thing right now, or.
Well, I think
Put it out.
I think we're gonna change the times around a little bit. I think next year we're gonna do the electronic waste in September and then move the landscape waste back.
Yeah.
cause for me, I will have a ton in spring,
We got 2 weeks in the spring.
because
Yeah.
my
You
leaves
got
don't
3
fall.
acres, blow them all over the back, burn.
Right on the railroad.
Yeah, throw the tires in there, just be done.
Look at it.
And some gas.
All right.
Oh my God. Next, we're gonna kill me.
Thank you, Rob. Streets and alleys.
Nothing.
Storm sewer, nothing. Community and economic development.
Just November 9th, next Wednesday, 6 p.m. of our CDC meeting. There should be a Zoom option.
Here?
Yes, it'll be here.
9th at 6 p.m.
Now, that's voluntary.
Yeah, that's just me. It's on the village representative.
Who's all on that board?
One representative from each of the taxing bodies. So
Didn't
Megan,
one levy refuse to send somebody though?
No, we've got somebody now from,
They were simply didn't have anybody to say.
Oh.
Available. It's, David Tuttle from the Fire Protection District,
Megan.
Megan, Walker from the Park District, Zach Chatterton from the School District. It was,
I don't remember her name.
Mrs. Thomas, Kara's mother from the library.
Oh, okay.
And then we had
One at large.
one at large, Jen Reader.
And we have one at large open.
If you'd like to go. You don't get to.
What library?
Yeah, Farmington Library District, they have a levy, you pay into the Farmington Library District if you live in Hannah City, we're in their district.
One of the things what we were thinking about was asking Rod's
It's
wife.
really nice.
She's a realtor, and so on the residential stuff, she'd be a good person to help us evaluate which projects
Rodswood, yeah, Pam, yeah.
are gonna have the greatest impact on the residential side, so. That's one option, but we do have one at-large spot open.
Yeah, that wouldn't be badass, somebody her, somebody of her ilk.
Retired cop car. I hope not, cause they're all in my shed.
Yeah.
There goes my boat, my tractor, my camper. My eight, they're back. Oh, they're in the other shed.
Administration,
National Living from the I've got a call for you at 19-433 West Linwood. Crosses 800 North Quarry Road for a lift assist only, no injuries. For someone there to open the door for you.
Lifting assistant.
It's not your.
administration, Miller.
Not much. There was only 4 calls that they had from 10:23 to 10:29. 3 medical and 1 paper delivery.
And one paper delivery?
Yeah, it sounds.
Yeah, so them with,
Process
trying to
service.
start with late. We got it!
Well, I'm-
Lights and sirens.
Court paper. Somebody's gotta go to court. By my house, I didn't want that.
They're shoved in the front door, you haven't seen them for the last month.
No, they know me, they never get old of me.
So I guess we're on the other business. This is our one chance to change elected officials' compensation, correct?
Yeah.
For-
Because of the number of days we have to do it before the elections, we need to do it before the 16th. So I guess we could do it this meeting or the next meeting. So the question is, do we want to change
Our own compensation.
your own compensation? That's
It
right.
would be after, wouldn't take effect till after the next election though, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it wouldn't change immediately, so technically you're voting for somebody else's unless you're somebody that's not up to the spring and then you are voting on your own.
But I think everybody's up this spring.
Everybody but Rod, right?
I don't
Or
know.
is it you?
I think almost everybody's up for the
Everybody
spring.
but Tony doesn't have to run and there's one
I
other
don't think I
person.
do.
It's either you or Rod. Everybody else has to
There's
run.
gotta be a couple.
All of you.
Yeah, well, anybody
If you've been
appointed,
Anybody
appointed,
appointed
you
has
have
to
to
run
run.
because you're not technically
Yeah,
elected yet.
Fill an old chair.
You
can,
do, but
but
you're not.
Only to the next.
only to the
election.
next general election, then you have to run. So we will have a mixture of some 4-year terms that expired and some people running for the second half of their 2-year, 3-year. I mean, we could have a whole,
Yeah, because
Well,
you're,
just assume
Yeah.
whoever's chair I was filling.
yeah,
you
Tony,
don't serve out their whole term, you just serve to the next election, then get
Yeah.
That's
elected.
not how it is in the school.
Yeah, the school might be different. School
Bill, were you
districts-
gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, yeah, that you can't take effect within your current term. So if you weren't all up for election, anybody who wasn't would not increase because they'd still be within their current term.
Oh, so you'd have people making different amounts then?
Correct.
Okay.
But I think, if I understand correctly, Tony's is different already, so he doesn't count. And we'd have to look at somebody else to find out if there is one other person that, but I thought he told me everybody's up. Because you're appointed, you're appointed, you're appointed, you're
If it's
appointed.
just Caleb and he's gonna wait 2 years.
There
not
was
wanna
one,
raise.
one of them has a 2-year appointment, the other one has a 4-year. And I
Appointment.
can't,
Who?
Bill-
either you or Rod.
Bill, if I remember right, we need to do it by the 16th, right? So we can vote on it at the next meeting? Okay.
Correct.
We say changes, we mean like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna vote to decrease my pay.
Right, you know.
Yeah, it'd be for more.
I think only
We've,
too much.
never done it since we've been on. I think last time we checked around, $50 a meeting was,
I think you're 55 now, is that right?
55 now.
oh, did we raise it at one point?
Yeah.
I must not have been at
55.
that meeting.
Well, I guess that's the other question. Do y'all think it needs to be adjusted? I mean,
65 in Germantown. just FYI.
Yeah, we're not.
65 in Germantown?
There's another
That's
place.
because Germantown's rich.
Look at the other, a couple other villages of our size.
Okay, so let me push it to the next
Ah.
meeting.
Do we want, is there an adjustment that could be made for if we don't have a meeting issue, or was everybody okay with that? Like, they did not get paid for that meeting. Well, no, it's,
Come on.
right,
Yeah.
but we canceled the meeting that was because you guys,
There's no quorum.
well, yeah, I guess.
Did not get
because
paid, there was no
all of
meeting.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody's using it for a main source of income, so we've never really raised it, I don't think,
Might gas money to get you.
ever. Yeah. But we've not been-
Okay, I'm gonna push that to the 15th because we still have time to vote on it. We'll do a little research, and then Tony was the one who was asking the question, so him not
Yeah.
being here, it'd probably be
And
better.
if you guys don't realize how much work Tony does do, I mean, he's here, what, how many times a week?
Well, he and I meet at least once.
So, cause I know
I think his pay did go up. when he took it off.
it did.
Well, we changed it to a lump sum or
Okay,
so much
yeah.
every 6 months, but we can't change his pay unless it's mid-cycle.
Yeah,
So it would be when he gets reelected too, so he's stuck in what he's
Okay.
got.
yeah, exactly, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll push that to the next meeting.
Yeah,
Logan Trevoli Fire Company wants to do propane tank training at the old, or where we've got the Public Works building. They've done it there before. So I'm assuming that's okay. I don't think it's nothing we need to vote on, but I wanted to make you aware of that. We will be paying for the water. Farmington football program, they're in the state term or whatever, so we put an ad in, for them.
I was gonna say, we already did that, right?
Yeah.
Because the
Well-
next game's away, so they won't be.
No, we did.
Well,
It
we
was
did,
in there.
and we
Okay.
also did the track team,
I have
so we did
those,
two,
yeah.
yep.
There's something else Rod said for,
Christmas party.
Christmas party.
Is there a time that works?
Put a 5 next to it.
What's a Christmas party?
We have a board,
Yeah,
staff
yes,
joint,
we-
kinda,
What, did we
Gathering.
switch it to evening? It used to be like a lunch.
Well,
and
what
it
we
was a
did-
potluck, but I think we made it before the meeting.
what we did last year is we did a potluck, and then we all went to refuel
That's right. That's right.
afterwards.
We did it right before the meeting though. Didn't we come up here a little bit early and have some food and then some of us went to refuel afterwards?
Tracy would like to request that it not be contingent upon her attending a meeting.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's, last year we had them attend the meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
But that was partially because we had a bunch of new people
right.
and
Yeah,
new roles.
there was almost entirely new staff. on
Make it
board.
all day.
Yes.
We all go to the hog shop.
We used to
We go
do
coffee can for coffee,
lunch,
and we go to lunch
but
at Gills, and
Well, yeah, the problem is.
then we drink our
everybody
dinner
else-
at Region.
Some wings are in the afternoon.
I mean, is there something that we want to do for the workers? Like,
that's why they used to do it
Bring
at lunch,
in-
because it would be like a potluck thing at lunchtime.
mhm.
And the board's almost cycled over. Almost everybody on the board works. At one point, everybody on the board was old and retired, so they were all in town except for me. But the board's almost went over to everybody on the board's a 40-hour worker now, so they're not in town during the day.
So the way.
But yeah, I don't care.
The way Germantown does it is they pick a Saturday, the first Saturday in December, they go to one of the local restaurants in Germantown. They buy pizza and wings and stuff, and we have a white elephant gift exchange.
Oh, they do it off hours there.
Yep.
You're better off during. I mean, I just won't be there probably because our weekends are so crammed with the kid stuff.
So I guess, is it better to do a lunch? Is it better to do a week, evening?
It's gonna be during the week. I think it's gonna be, are we gonna do lunch and it's just gonna be mainly the workers, or are we gonna do before the meeting and have?
If you do lunch, I won't be
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee it will be. There probably won't be if it's a lunch.
Well, I mean, do we want to provide a lunch for the workers here?
here. Right.
And then we can have like a potluck for us.
Yeah,
But
that's
it was
true.
kind of hard to eat while we were trying to, so, you
Well,
know,
the meeting
Well, you're the
was
only one that
at
has to
7,
take notes.
so
so it's
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Tracy doesn't want to come over.
Tracy would like to request that it not be contingent upon her
Yeah,
attending a meeting.
Gym and
There was a
Brown
lot of
guy,
other things that
yeah,
went on that
one,
day.
Jim Roger.
that
6.
Yeah.
We just lumped it all into
What-
one
what-
meeting.
I think it'd be more personal for all of them if they weren't on the clock doing that.
Yeah, that's why Germantown does it on a Saturday
Send them all to
or a
Gills,
Sun, no,
like,
they
give
do it
them
on a
all
Sunday
gift
evening, I
certificate to
think.
Go to Gills on some night and all eat together, but
That's-
they might
yeah.
not do that.
But
Yeah.
Germantown also invites the attorney and the engineer and they invite everybody and they pay.
We're
for
not
it.
inviting the attorney, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, before they did a potluck at lunch for the workers, and then we would eat what was left over in the evening at the meeting. Whoever wanted to come to the meeting, they could. There was leftover food. It was just workers ate during the day at lunch. They came in here, had a longer lunch hour. Then the food would get broken back out. We'd eat on it during the meeting too.
No.
They did
it
potluck
would have to
before.
be
I think the staff would prefer an evening dinner or something.
I would, that's what I'm
I
saying.
think the staff, honestly, I think the staff would prefer an evening dinner somewhere. Like when we did Fred's going away thing at Gills or whatever. Where it would
I
be-
agree, and their spouses.
Yeah, if you do that, do it during the week.
Yeah, during a weeknight.
That's what it needs to be, if you're gonna do anything.
Yeah, I'm fine meeting somewhere during the week. It's just the weekends for, it's easier for us during the week almost, because weekends just get.
I don't really care, I mean, this kind of sounds bad, I don't really care as much about all, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
main city workers that but every day.
You said they prefer.
I think
Go
they're, I
somewhere
think, I can ask
nicer
them
than-
again, but I think their general preference would be to do something in an evening. Weeknight's fine.
Right.
Either that or, yeah, like have something catered, something that we don't have to bring the food in ourselves. I
Exactly.
mean,
Well, like I said, it's almost switched for everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody was retired before and had plenty of times to bring stuff. Now everybody up here work,
yeah.
But even if you do it here, I know last time it was like, and it wasn't bad, but it was, and I think it was partly because of COVID and stuff, but it was, there's still cleanup and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It's
I
just
see.
easier for them to go
do that.
someplace.
Find the night the workers all are free the most
You
and
want me to
schedule
do
it,
a
and then whoever else can
poll and
attend
then
can
we'll-
attend.
Yeah.
we'll agree on next meeting?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. 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 Especially if that's what they said would be best. If they want to do a weeknight evening, then figure out the weeknight evening they can all make and then tell us what it is and,
Okay, we can do that.
I don't see any correspondence up here.
Nope.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. Unless there's anything else.
You don't need a motion.
No, meeting's over.
15th.
Next meeting's in 2 weeks. Durr.
And then after that one, well, and that might be maybe a good time to do it because we got 3 weeks. We got the
It's a
anomaly.
5 Tuesday.
Mhm. Yeah, so we have the 15th, and then I don't think we meet again for 3 weeks, if I remember right.
I mean, a lot of checks to sign on that one.
Yeah.
There was quite a few tonight.
Well.
All right, are we adjourned?
Adjourn.
Thanks, guys. Danny, Ron, Adam, appreciate it.